Good morning, as is church. It's great to see you. I hope you had a great holidays. For those of you who may not formally know me, my name is Eric Lloyd. I am the Children's Ministry Director here at As Is Church. Been in that role coming up on almost 3 years now. It's pretty exciting to hang out with the kids. I can teach them about who God is, why Jesus is a cool dude, along with some life lessons about bravery, forgiveness, trusting in God's plan, love, all those things, along with some more practical things that we learned back there, like washing our hands after we use the restroom, sharing is caring, why we keep our hands and our feet to ourselves, why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, you know, those things. Today we are going to, as you can see, we have the table set up. We're going to do a small message from me, and then we're going to break you guys into groups. I know that this is not everybody's favorite cup of tea, and I'm a man who doesn't promise things I can't keep. So the promise I can make to you today, for those of you that may not like this setup, is that this is the last time we will do this year. I can't promise what happens next year, but as far as this year, this is the last time we're going to do it. Thanks. Today's message is kind of a deep one, and where I got kind of my foundation for that is kind of what Jesus laid out for us throughout his ministry. What he did was a lot of amazing things, but things I want to highlight today is that Jesus was a great inviter. Didn't matter if you're a Pharisee, a Samaritan, a Gentile, a Jew, a tax collector, a sinner, a saint, right? He made everybody feel welcomed, invited, loved, heard, seen. What he also did really well is that he was a great challenger, right? He continued to push us to step outside of ourselves, to really understand what it meant to deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow Jesus. And so we hope today with this message that we make you feel, 1, invited, but 2, a little bit challenged. I don't know about you, but anything that I've done in life where I have had to grow, I had to be in a place where it was really uncomfortable. So I don't want you to feel super uncomfortable because this is a safe and loving place, but I also want you to feel a little bit challenged to step out of your comfortable zone and into a place where you're ready to grow. So I had all these wild ideas. Like I said, I'm back there with the kids a lot of times, and so I had some real cool ideas for how to present this message. I thought about having some fireworks, you know what I'm saying, maybe having some elves come out, things like that. But what I decided to do is that what better way to present this message with you than to do it with a special guest. So I'd like to welcome up my special guest, my very pregnant, very beautiful, and very smart wife, Christina Lloyd.
Thanks. Which side do you want me on?
Whatever side you want to be on.
Okay. You might be wondering, why did Eric want me to be his special guest? We are about 75% of the way to being parents, as you can see. But if you don't know, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and so that's just a really fancy term for I work with young kids and their families, helping them do everyday activities. And as Eric was preparing, I gave him one little suggestion of things that I tell my parents when I'm working with them, and he was like, wow, that's so great. You get to say that now in front of everyone. But in all seriousness, I think it's just a blessing for both of us that we each work with kids as our vocation in our own way. It's our ministry and our passion to feed the sheep, and so I think we're just excited to be here.
Thanks, babe. So as you can see on the TVs behind us, the title of our message is called Parenting on Purpose. I want to do a little participation with you all, so here's your part to join in with us. If you are a parent, I want you to raise your hand. Keep your hands up. How about grandparents? Raise your hand. Keep them up, all of them. Yep, if your parents, keep your hands up as well. How about aunts or uncle? If you're an aunt or an uncle, raise your hand as well. Okay, how about you got younger siblings that you help parent? Okay, everyone keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. I know. Lastly, raise your hand if you are a role model or a mentor. Before you put your hands down, I want you to just look around, okay? There is a lot of you out here, and so this message is for you. Those of you who do not have your hand raised, do not feel like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. I promise you that our message today has some great principles that you can use in your walk with Christ, and your work, and your family, whether it's your direct family or extended family, with your friends, and also with your everyday interactions with your community. Thank you for helping. So you can put your hands down if you haven't already. So, parenting on purpose. Parenting is a calling like no other. It's not just a job, it's a mission, one that requires us to step into many roles. Coach, teacher, protector, and yes, sometimes even a human jungle gym. But see, at the heart of it, we all share a common goal. We want to raise children to grow into being strong, confident, and compassionate adults. And ideally, we want to grow children into being the adults who wash their hands after use the restroom and don't text in all caps. But see, the truth is that parenting is messy. It's kind of like trying to bake a cake without a recipe. You have all the right ingredients, love, patience, and wisdom, but you have to figure out how to mix it in just the right way. See, sometimes it turns out really well, and other times, if we're honest, it's a little off. But see, that's okay, because parenting is a process, and it's a journey, and just like any journey in life, it is filled with both triumphs and mistakes. See, the Bible teaches us that children are a gift from the Lord. See, in Psalms 127:3, it says, "Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him." But let's be honest, the weight of that reward can feel a little heavy sometimes. I mean, we want to raise them right, we want to protect them, give them everything we didn't have. But if we're not careful, we can fall into certain traps along the way. Traps that, even with the best intentions, can end up hindering them rather than helping them. See, in our efforts to protect them and make their lives easier, we sometimes risk too little, we rescue too fast, and we model behavior too weakly. Let's take a look at these traps and see how we can avoid them as we walk this parenting journey out with God, and maybe, just maybe, take a little bit of pressure off ourselves while we're at it. If you have your program and you're a fill-in-the-blank kind of person like my wife is, the first trap that we have, and the first fill-in-the-blank, maybe the second fill-in-the-blank, is risk too little. Parents are like lifeguards, right? We want to keep our kids from drowning in the mess of life, but if we always keep them in the shallow end, never letting them venture into the deep water, what happens? Sure, they stay safe, but they won't learn how to handle the hard stuff when life gets deep. See, in Proverbs 22:6, it says, train up a child in the way they should go. I want you to circle the word train, because see, training isn't about protecting them from everything or wrapping them in a bubble. It's about helping them figure out how to navigate the world, even when it's messy, even when it's challenging. Kids need to take risks. They need to screw up sometimes. Think back when you first learned how to ride a bike. For some of you, that was a really long time ago. For others, it was just yesterday. If your parents have been hovering, running beside you, and holding the seat the whole time, sure, you might have stayed up for a little bit, but you wouldn't have learned how to get back up when you fell. See, falling was a part of the process. You had to fail to learn to pick yourself up. And it's the same with kids. They need to experience discomfort, failure, and challenges if they're ever going to grow stronger. And as parents, we can't shield them from every mistake or tough situation. They need to face risk, safe, manageable risk that pushes them to grow. Whether it's learning to swim, ride a bike, speak up for themselves, or deal with difficult people, risk is a part of the process. I can promise you they will stumble. I can promise you they will fall. But it's in those moments that they will discover resilience and learn to trust that God is faithful even when things don't go perfectly.
All right, our next point is that we rescue too fast or too quickly, and that would be the next blank on your program. So Eric and I love camping, and one of our favorite activities is to have a campfire. And Eric is the very typical boy. He loves chopping wood with the axe. He likes adding too much wood to the fire. And I just like relaxing and sitting back and watching the flames. But we also live in the Pacific Northwest, and there's all these rules and regulations in the summertime, right? And so we have to be careful. We have to watch out that the sparks don't catch anything on fire. You know, and it would not be very relaxing for me if I jumped up every time a little spark came out of this fire. And I had to go and stomp it out, right? And let's be real, like that doesn't happen every time. I think we've had a ton of campfires and never have caught anything on fire. But we just have to be watchful. We have to make sure I can still sit in my chair and make sure things don't get out of control. And that's kind of the thing about rescuing too quickly. It's like being a personal firefighter for every spark in your child's life. Every time a child faces a challenge, we have the tendency to swoop in with our metaphorical fire hose and try to put out the flame before the fire even starts. But guess what? Like a campfire, not every spark turns into a fire. Sometimes in our kids' lives, those sparks are just opportunities for growth and learning. James 1:2-4 says this: "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, and not lacking anything." Our kids need to fail sometimes. They need to struggle, not because we want them to suffer, but because this is how they learn perseverance, like it says in James. This is how they learn frustration tolerance and flexibility, regulation, and problem-solving skills. And when we step in too quickly to rescue them, we rob them of the chance to learn those things. And then they learn to rely on us rather than figuring out how to handle things themselves. So like I mentioned, I'm an occupational therapist, and a really big part of my job right now is just parent coaching on some life things like potty training and feeding, but also just emotional and behavioral skills. And toddlers are really amazing, and they're lots of fun, right? It's just like the perfect age where they're growing all these new skills and independence, but also with that independence, that presents its own difficulties. A lot of people might call it the terrible twos. And when I'm coaching, I like to ask my parents this question: is this an inconvenience to me, or is it dangerous? And those should be your next blanks. Is it inconvenient or dangerous? And if it's dangerous, go and rescue them, right? Like if your child is running into the street without looking if there's any cars, you should probably go and stop them. If your new teen driver isn't wearing their seatbelt while they're driving, like you should probably do something about that. Like those are life and death situations. But if your situation is just frustrating or inconvenient to you, let your child struggle a little bit and use that opportunity to teach those skills that I mentioned earlier, those skills your child will need for life. If your toddler dumps their food on the floor, teach them to clean it up. If your elementary kid doesn't want to wear a rain jacket to school, okay, let them go out in recess and play in the rain with no jacket, right? They're going to learn their lesson. If your teen forgets an important school project, let them struggle with that disappointment and then help them use a planner or learn study skills. And so again, what I like to ask my parents is this a frustrating or inconvenient situation for me or for my child, or is this really just a life or death dangerous situation?
Thanks, Bill. And our last trap is we model too weakly. See, sometimes we model too weakly, and as parents, believe it or not, we set the example from everything from how to handle stress, how to handle relationships, how to pray, and even how to respond to difficulties. Our children are watching us, not just listening to us. What do they see in us when we encounter hardships? What about when we face temptations? Or when we are wronged or discouraged? Imagine trying to teach a kid how to play soccer by just standing on the sideline shouting instruction. You can tell them all day how to kick the ball, how to pass, how to position their feet, how to see the field. But until you get on the field and show them, they will never fully understand the game. See, you can't teach what you don't model. In Deuteronomy 6:6-7, we have it here behind me. I'm just going to paraphrase it. Essentially, it says that God is telling us to keep his commands on our heart and to teach them to our kids as we go through life. Nowhere in there does it say just give your kids a list of do's and don'ts. It's about trying to live out the values. And if we say we trust God, but we panic every time something goes wrong, what message does that send? If we tell our kids to be patient and kind, but we lose our temper in traffic, they're going to pick up on that. That's me. See, kids are like sponges. They're going to do what we do, not just what we say. And we are the walking example of what we want them to be. You are the field they are learning to play on. If we want them to have strong faith, we have to be the kind of people who live out that faith authentically, not just talk about it. Our kids need to see us choose faith in real life. They need to see us pray when things get tough. They need to see us serve others when it's inconvenient. And they need to see us live with integrity even when it costs us something. So, the next time you're in a tough situation, ask yourself this. What am I showing my kids about how to handle this? Are you showing them patience, trust, humility, and faith? And if not, it's time to start. So, that's what we got. We are going to do table talk. I want to remind all of you that if you're not into this and you just want to listen, you can just listen. If you want to participate, we'd love for you to participate.
Hope you guys had some good conversation. We did at our table. We're just going to end with a quick little summary. about the bottom line. We risk too little when we keep our kids in their comfort zone. We rescue too fast when we don't let them learn from their struggles. And we model too weakly when our actions don't match our words. Parenting is like teaching somebody to play a sport or learn a new skill. We don't want to make it too easy or they'll never improve. And we don't want to do everything for them or they'll never learn to do it themselves. In the OT world, we call this the Just Right Challenge, which, it's what I do, but I love that term of where's that balance of our parenting. And just lastly, we don't want to send them out into the world without showing them how to live like Jesus. Parenting isn't about being perfect or raising perfect children. It's about being intentional with how we raise our kids. I'm going to invite the worship team to come back up and just leave you with this final thought. That you are the coach, the teacher, and the example, and our kids are watching us. They're learning from what we do, and they're growing every day. So let's model the kind of life that we want them to lead. Let them face challenges along the way, and watch as they grow into strong, resilient, faithful adults who love others and love God. Let's pray. Dear Father, thank you for the gift of children. We know that parenting isn't always easy or fun, but we ask for your wisdom as we raise them. Help us to know when to step back and when to let them take risks, when to struggle so they can grow, and when to model our faith with our words and actions. Equip us as the body of Christ to come alongside one another and raise tiny disciples. Amen.